Hello, Missladypetal here, and today I'm just talking about some copyright issues. There's been some stuff come up in this kind of sphere in the last, it's come up in the last couple of months, to be honest, and there's a lot of people that are very unclear with copyright law. Now, I'm in Australia, so I've looked at Australian law, but I just want to say that a lot of our Australian law on copyright is based on the fair use policy in the US, and so I also have researched US copyright law as well, and they are incredibly similar. So when I talk copyright, if there's anything that's unique to Australia or anything that's unique to the US, then I will say it. But this is, I just want to put a disclaimer up that I'm not a lawyer, and anything that I say here is just my opinion, and it's just my own interpretation based on a lot of research on this topic, because I'm a teacher, right? And people copy my work all the time because I want them to, because I'm a teacher. And so that falls a little bit differently outside the lines of copyright law. And not only will I talk about copyright law when you're the student, but also the implication for us as teachers, for those of us that teach. So number one, what is covered by copyright? The only definitive things when I'm talking specifically about works of art, and when I looked online for works of art are music, books, so you're looking at any finished piece in the creative arts, paintings, photographs, any evidence of something that you've created, material evidence, and it's also digital. So we're talking works of art, movies, anything like that. That is all included in what I'm talking about. So copyright covers all of that. And your copyright lasts, depending on what country you're in, generally from 1968 in Australia, but 1977 in the US, your lifetime plus 70 years. And I know in the US they can apply to have that lengthened to 70 more plus years before it becomes what they call common property. And so you retain the copyright, and you can choose, you don't have to apply for copyright, it is automatic on your work. And you have to make sure that it can be defined as your work. And a lot of artists these days look at not just signing their work, but putting on the back when it was commissioned, who it was sold to, the full name of the artist, and they do that on the back of the painting, and what it was sold for. And then there's a permanent record there on the back of the painting, whether it's done on the wooden cross things or whether it's done on the back of the paper, if it's paper or signed prints, whatever. I know that if I sell signed prints, then there is obviously the signature on the print on the front, but I say what number in the series the print is, because I only do limited series, and I sign it again and then I issue it with the date. And it's very recognisable as my work. Now, copyright law does not cover the process, the class, the teaching. It does not cover names unless you have trademarked a name. So if you have a name like Flora Bowley has Bloom True, Tamara Laporte has Lifebook. If I was them, I would trademark those names. They are very much their intellectual property. They are very, very unique, and their businesses are big enough to worth actually trademarking their names. If you have a course that you don't want, that has a unique name in it, and it is very identifiable to you as an artist, there are a couple of ways that you can make those courses more unique to yourself without necessarily needing to trademark the name. But you always will know that if the name is not trademarked, that someone could take a part of that name and use it, particularly if it's very common. So if I did a course that was all about life drawing, So many artists do life drawing courses, and some are paid and some are not, some are live, some are not, some are in art schools, some are online, some are in books. Okay, so all of that falls under the same thing. So what I've decided as an artist to do is that any course that I do will have my name in it. Why? Because unless I'm as big as Tamara Laporte or Donna Downey or Lamore Webber, then I'm not going to necessarily want to trademark my name early on when I don't have a lot of cash, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to put my name. So I might do Life Drawing with Peter Thompson as the name of my course. I might call it Miss Lady, like my paper bead tutorial, Missladypetal paper beads. All right, Missladypetal beads. That particular course is a free course on YouTube. But if I was to make a paid course on paper beads, then I would think about using my name in it or my business name, Missladypetal Creations, in that. It's very identifiable as my work then, because there is no other Missladypetal on social media or on the internet. I know, I've done my due diligence and I've checked, and I own the business name and I own the domain and I own that name, and it is mine. And I also have email addresses and you name it, I've got it in that business name. It's a name that I've had for a very long time in the blogging world, and now I'm just shoring it up in Australian law, and I've registered that name as a business name for me. So if I include my business name in anything that I do, it gives me some rights, that it's my business name. And if someone wants to plagiarize Missladypetal Creations now, I have the right to say to them, you can't use my name, it's my business name, it's a registered business name. And that's the way that that works. As far as all of our processes go, a lot of teaching methods for courses and the way that courses are structured, to be honest with you, I don't think anything is new or original in the structure of courses these days. Not in person and not on the internet. Nothing. Not on DVD, not on downloads. Somebody else has done it before you and somebody else will do it after you, because the structure of a course itself cannot be copyrighted. Who cares? Who cares if there's 5-minute lessons, 2-minute lessons, there's a chapter that's 30 minutes long and a chapter that's 1 minute, that's 1 hour long, and you have different exercises in each. It's very common in all art schools to be taught in a particular method to warm you up so that you can actually produce the best piece at the end of the process. And the course names themselves, well, they're not copyrighted either. Not unless you trademark them. And that's the same in Australia or all the US. So what does that mean for all of us on YouTube, and particularly those of us that are students? Like, I'm doing Lifebook this year. So I wanted to sit in and see how awesome Tamara Laporte's course was and learn from a lot of different teachers. And there's some great teachers on there. Love, love, love them. I'm also doing Jane Davenport's course, and I've got a book of hers, and I've actually signed up for a couple of her courses. And my work, when I'm doing those courses, when I learn a particular teacher's technique, I like to do their technique. So my work that I do from them, I actually never sell, because I copy them, because that's what they're trying to teach me. They're trying to teach me a technique. Then it's up to me to interpret that. But even so, even if I use that technique, say the way Jane draws eyes, even if I use that, it's very much the way Jane does it, and she does it like that all the time. Tamara has heaps of different ways that she does faces, and she's very changeable in the way that she does faces and eyes and placement. Everybody plays around with placement. It is part of an artist's nature to push the boundaries. But when you have work that is inspired by another artist, you have to have a look at the terms and conditions of the course that you're doing. Now, with Tamara Laporte's course, and also with my Journaling Krazy Island style course that I'm a teacher on, we have particular terms and conditions that allow you to copy our work. Why? Because we're teachers and we want to teach you something. We want you to have your own style, but we want you to be able to feel free to copy our work. And we say to you, we're not going to stop you from selling that work because you did it. Even though it's really similar to what I taught you. You've achieved the purpose of what I as the teacher wanted you to do. You did the work that I wanted you to do. How can I stop you from selling that work then? So as a teacher, I say to you, you just have to give me credit. Wherever you post the image on any social media site, if you sell it in your Etsy store, if you sell it on eBay, you have to give me credit. Inspired by Missladypetal Creations or inspired by Peter Thompson. So when I post work, I say inspired by Tamara Laporte or inspired by Jane Davenport. And often when I do their classes, I only post on their social media sites. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I love my sketches so much that I post them everywhere. But I always give the teaching artist credit. And that's really important. Because in the mixed media world, we generally are a really good bunch. We are not snooty people. We are a very supportive community, and I'm in a lot of communities that are just amazing. They are emotionally supportive. They are very great. When you have a lot of students in there, and some of the students are teachers themselves, and you have some very accomplished artists that just love doing these courses, then you have a lot of experience and a lot of years of training that you can call on from anybody in those courses, not just the teachers. In fact, they rely on it. See Tamara's site that's got 20,000 people, right? She's not going to get to every Facebook post, not even necessarily all the ones you tag her in. And she has an assistant, Krazy, that helps her. But what I mean by that is that you have a whole community that's there to help you, and when we help you, right, it helps you grow as an artist and gradually define your own style. And let me tell you that even if you have a unique style today, let me tell you, it's probably been done before. Whether it's 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 50 years ago, whatever, it's probably been done before. And there's not very much in the art world these days that is truly unique. Truly unique, because there's a lot of people around the world in art. So your work is your work, and we are kidding ourselves if we don't think that we grasp little bits of every course we've ever done, of every image we've ever seen, and every social network or YouTube video we've ever seen. And we throw it in and we try a technique, and it looks a little bit like the originating artist, but we put our own spin on it and we do this and that. Because unless you learn from a lot of different people and a lot of different places, then how are you going to get the techniques to create the truly original piece of art, or to do exactly what you want to achieve in any given piece? I think there needs to be a little bit of common sense working in here. And look, I have seen a lot of copyright infringement for images in the last 12 months. And whenever I see somebody getting named and shamed for doing and plagiarizing that on Facebook and ripping something off and taking watermarks off digital images of other people's original work and selling them as their own and not giving the original artist, just basically taking the original artist's work and then just saying it's theirs, I will share those posts and spread that around, because breaching copyright is a very serious business, and not all of us have the money to go and do it, but if we can stamp it out as much as possible, then that's great. So where do we sit then in the copyright sphere? What's the fair use policy? Some people think that the 10% rule, if you only use 10% of an image. But in US law, when that's been tested, that's been proven not to work. Because if you've got a piece that's similar or uses exactly 10% of something else and just inserts it into an image, you could be breaching copyright if you haven't got the artist's permission. So there is no hard and fast rule. One thing you need to think about is, do I have the right to copy this work? And if you do a teaching course, then you need to read the terms and conditions of the teaching course to see whether you have the right to copy the work. And if you don't have the right to copy the work, then don't. Or if you do copy it, don't publicise it. But in Journaling Krazy Island style, for instance, we say, go ahead, copy our work. We're teaching you, we want you to. because you won't learn unless you do what the techniques that we're asking you to do. It's very simple. And there is a trade-off. When we're making money from teaching you, we have to give you some grace to learn. And so in that school, we say to you, you give credit to the artist that inspired you to do it. And you name them. And I personally think it's really great to name the course. So I often will say, Doing Beautiful Faces, love that book with Jane Davenport, and I'll tag her name into my post. I'll put links to her website on my YouTube videos in the descriptions. I will say, if I'm doing Tamara's Fabulous Faces course, I will say I'm doing Fabulous Faces course with Tamara Laporte. Because all of your work helps to advertise their course, and if you're really proud of the work that you're doing, why wouldn't somebody else want to necessarily take that course? So all the work that you do, that's just part of the networking and part of the advertising that we as artists do. It's word of mouth. Social media is brilliant at word of mouth. You can reach thousands, millions of people. I love that. You never know where the image will be sold. But you need to be careful when you're putting images on social media. Number one, my tip for you, putting any image on social media doesn't mean, it means that it can be downloaded by someone. Now, if you've got taking the risk of spreading your work over social media and the internet, it can be downloaded. So watermark your image, and then watermark it in a way that makes it extremely difficult for someone to remove the watermark. So if you're going to watermark an image, don't put it right down in the left-hand corner so they can just crop it out of the picture. Put it in there in multiple places. Make it translucent a little bit. People who are really determined to steal your image probably still will, though. And that's the risk that you need to take if you're putting art on the internet. Particularly if you're making a business out of that art and you're making money out of your art and you're starting to increase your profile on the internet and starting to become well known. Now, I'm not incredibly well known on the internet, but my profile is rising. And some of my work has been plagiarized. And in turn, I have plagiarized other people's work, but I've always given them credit, and I'm allowed to do so. Where I'm not allowed to do so, I don't do it. Or if I copy their work because I want to own an image that's very similar to that, I don't publicize it. It's for my pleasure only. And I don't make money off it. So I'll give you an example. I love some of Vicky Papaneau's pages, and I have a particular art journal here, and I save this art journal for doing interesting bits and pieces. I'm just going to show you one page that I did. Okay. The teacup page. Now I've seen almost probably hundreds of these. This is a direct copy of a Vicky Papaneau page. I don't claim it as my own. I did the work, but the idea was completely hers, and I did something different. This is an inspired page from a Rach 13 page, and I did different writing, used a different image, but the style was very much the same. This is inspired by a course I did with Claudia Rossi. I did it long after I did the course, and it wasn't part of my work, but it's still significantly similar to her faces. So when I say that I do my work and I get trained in a particular way of doing things, then that I have to give that artist credit. And I don't splash them around, sell the images, and I usually do them in journals, because journals then are my private thing and they're not on display all the time, and they're there for me to learn. So I hope all of this helps you. Copyright is a very grey area. There is no black and white. And look, tomorrow there could be a case that disproves something that I've said today. I don't claim to be a lawyer. I do claim to have been in business for quite a long time, and then before that worked for the federal government in Australia, where I interpreted law on a daily basis. My whole job was about interpreting the Act that I worked under. So I know how to read legalese. I know how to read legislation. And when I read stuff about copyright and I read previous cases and I read precedents that have been done in both US and Australian law, I basically say to you now, if you're doing work that's inspired or has a very definitive style of another artist on it, and they haven't given you permission in their terms and conditions on their courses or their YouTube video or anywhere else, or you haven't got written permission because you contacted them to use their style in your work, then you are making yourself liable for breaching copyright. No, make no bones about it. Recently, and this is still on the same topic and it is apples to apples, when the creative arts are mentioned in copyright law, they're lumped in with music, books, anything that can be produced originally by a person. Alright? So those people that say that music names and book names and blah 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 are not comparable to art, you're wrong. You're wrong. I've even asked one of my lawyer friends about this and they're like, no, it's all creative. It's all creative work. The product of any creative endeavour is included in one big family. And then individual cases on each of those are all tested. So a number of years ago, there was a riff in a very popular Australian song. And it says, and it was by Men at Work, and it was I Come From a Land Down Under. And it had a particular riff from a flute, from a flautist in it, from the band. That riff sounded very much like Kookaburra sits in an old gum tree. And it goes, Kookaburra sits in an old gum tree, Merry, Merry King of the world is he. Or it sounded like Waltzing Matilda. Now, that was tested in a court of law and they won. That riff was too similar to a much older song that had some rights owned by people. Who bought the rights? And they had to re-release it without the riff in it. Very, very famous Australian song. You do open yourself up for that legal thing and you might think you're insignificant, but people troll the internet. I know I made the mistake when I first started making my paper beads that you could wear for jewellery with metal cores in them. I said that they were like in the style of Pandora beads, as in the cores fitted like these beads could go on a Pandora style bracelet. Well, they had people trolling the internet for me and said I couldn't use the word Pandora because it was trademarked. So there's the name of something that's trademarked, and I was ordered to change the wording on my Etsy store, and that's why my beads are called Missladypetal beads. And they're not called, and I never even called them Pandora beads. I called them Missladypetal. I called them paper beads in the Pandora style. So I didn't even call them Pandora beads. I just wanted to let people know that they were the same shape and style as a Pandora bead. But how can you do that when the name's trademarked? You can't. So now I now have to field lots and lots and lots of inquiries about people that inquire about my paper beads on my Etsy store, and they want to know if they fit a Pandora bracelet. It's just the way it goes. I can't use the word in the listings. I can't use it in my description. I can't use it at all because it's trademarked. And even though that one word would save me a whole bunch of questions on my Etsy store, I can't use it. I can't use it as a descriptive term and I can't use it as a naming term. I can't use it at all for the purpose, anything to do related with beads or jewellery. Nothing. If I said that I had a Pandora haircut, they can do a thing about it because I'm talking about hair and they don't deal in hair. And I just called this is a Pandora haircut, this new haircut that I've got is called Pandora. They couldn't do anything about that. So I know I've gone on for a little while and I really hope that I've given a little bit of clarification about this. As a teacher, I want you to copy my work. I've set my terms and conditions there with the full knowledge that you will copy my work if you take my course, You will produce a product, most likely, that looks very similar to my style. And I want you to do that because I want you to learn and become a better artist and help you develop your own style. That's what all of us as teachers want. Yes, we want to make money out of it because we want to be able to continue arting and sell our works, and a lot of us have dreams of becoming full-time working artists and making money in the industry so that we can do what we love more often. And that's why we do it. There are some trade-offs for that though. If I sat at home and just painted on canvases all day, and I had a house full of canvases and then I have a gallery showing, then unless people went to my gallery showing or it was put on social media, they wouldn't know that I'd been painting at all, and my profile wouldn't necessarily rise. So social media can be your friend and your foe, and you need to be careful about what you do. And if you're ever called out by an artist that you're plagiarising their work, their finished work, then you need to have a really close examination of your work and what led you to do that work. And if they're right, then you need to do something about it, and you need to do it quickly. And those of us that have our copyright breached, we can either be militant about it, or we can have some grace and say, look, you've got something that's very similar to mine, but you've not given me credit. Could you do that? Could you amend your post? Could you amend your photo? The notes on your photo? Could you amend your YouTube video name and give me credit in your YouTube video if you're copying a technique? It's important that we give credit where credit is due. Because what that happens is that if I see, I recently subscribed to Genevieve's channel. She's got some great techniques on there. Do I want to do work like her? No. Will I do a page like one of hers? Probably. Because I want to test it out. I want to see how well it works. I've only ever done one of Vicky Papineu's pages, and her style is very defined, and it's the same every time she does it. She has a very defined style. And she does that as a paper crafter. Good for her. She's got a fabulous channel. She's on lots of design teams. Everybody loves her work. Great. Do I want to do work like that? No. Do I want to learn from her? Yes. Do I use some of the techniques that she uses in her channel? Yes. Is she using techniques that I learnt when I was scrapbooking? Yes. Is she using techniques that I've learnt on other YouTube channels that other artists used long before she started hers? Yes. The technique is not the issue. It's the finished work. And I'm going to leave you with that thought. Try to have your own defined style. Learn as much as you possibly can. It'll make you a better artist. My adage is learn something new today. It keeps you young. I mean it. We should never stop learning. I've got a lot of courses on this year by a lot of different really well-known artists worldwide. Not all in the mixed media sphere either. And I'm doing life drawing. It's about becoming a better artist and better at your craft if that's the craft that you choose. Do it considerately, and do it carefully. And you won't get yourself into trouble. Ciao for now. Learn something new today. It'll keep you young.